Thank you for joining us this evening. Regular scheduled council meeting of the Park City City Council on October 27th, 2020 at 7 p.m. Marlo, would you call the roll?
John Lanier. George Glover.
Here.
Ben Salcetta.
Here.
Melvin Kerr.
Here.
Tom Jones.
Here.
George Capps.
Here.
Brandy Bailey.
Here.
Jim Schrader.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. George?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
And Jim?
I second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. Tonight, George is going to lead in the invocation, and Ben's going to lead in the pledge. If everybody would please stand.
Let's pray. Father God in heaven, we just thank you for tonight. We ask now for wisdom, guidance in the sermon and doing the business of the people of Park City. We pray for provision for any residents in need, protection from the coronavirus, and also healing for those who have it. And we also pray, Lord, that people will put their trust and faith in you. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. We don't have anything for awards or presentations this evening, and we'll move on to public forum. And Sherry, do you want to come on up? Great.
Well,
There. Oh, hot mic. Hi, I'm just representing the fall or the Community Relations Board here tonight. We had Fall Fest on Saturday. We had about 150 people show up. And we want to thank 18 business sponsors that we had get involved in that event. Tonight we are holding a special meeting to decide if we want to do a Christmas event. Now, we have big plans for a Christmas event in 2021, but not for 2020. So for 2020, we're looking at December 5, which is a Saturday, and we would do a Christmas light parade. It would be along Grove Park, and we would probably get food vendors involved and some music. We don't need any additional funding for this, but if we decide to do it, we do need community buy-in. So that's one thing that we lacked at Fall Fest. Ben, thank you for showing up at Fall Fest. And George helped a lot too. We really appreciate that. And Dana, where is she? Yeah. Thank you for coming. So it was cold, but it was a good event. But, you know, we just want to remind you that we're just an extension of you. And so we want to make sure that if we decide to do events moving forward, that even if you can't attend, if you can help us with publicity and things like that, getting the word out to other people. So anyway, we just wanted to present that information to you now because if we decide to do this event, we're only 4 weeks out from it right now for December 5. So are there any questions about what we have planned or anything else for the 2020 calendar?
Not seeing any.
Okay, perfect. Ben?
I did want to say thank you guys very much. I know Saturday was a tough tour all in itself, with everything going on with COVID, the cold weather, and you all did an awesome job getting everything done there. I enjoyed the food trucks. That was kind of nice, although my cupcakes are still in the back of my car now that I think about that. So I might sneak out here in a second and grab them, but thank you all very much for your hard work.
Thank you, Ben. We will share more information as it comes for 2021, but we're hoping that that will be a good year to get some events going in the community. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. That was all for public forum this evening, so we'll move on to staff reports, and we'll start with Sean.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a couple different items to update in no particular order tonight. As you know, Hartman Arena has been unable to hold any type of ticketed events for some time, but they are planning one for this Friday, October 30th. It'll be 8 o'clock p.m. It will be an LFA MMA Legacy Fighting Alliance event, complete with loge boxes, which is something they haven't done since the February time period. Ben will be dropping by tickets tomorrow, so that I'll have those available if anyone's interested. Number 2, Sedgwick County has been providing, as you all know, small business PPE kits for the past 2 weeks and still has additional kits available. If businesses are interested in picking up the kits, they can stop by the City Administration Center during business hours. If a business has less than 25 or less employees, they will receive a small kit. Between 26 and 50 employees, they receive a large kit. And then if they have more than 50 employees, they will receive both a large and small kits, packed with sanitizer, cleansers, gloves, masks. They do also have extra face shields and masks if the businesses require those. Cleaning up from today due to the weather, just a side note, Waste Connection is most likely going to be running a day behind for the rest of the week. Their Mondays got slid into Tuesday, and it'll probably go until the rest of the week until they get caught up, just so everyone's aware of that. The weather has also caused a brief delay in the street department's sidewalk work, but so far they have made tremendous progress to date. Working on the sidewalk over by Beaumont, they have completed the sidewalk portion along Independence and only need to do the ADA approaches in the valley gutters to complete that project. And then as far as Jardine Park, they have completed approximately 80% of the sidewalk trail that goes through the park, as well as the driveway approach to the new parking lot on the south side. So they should be complete by next week with both projects. Reminder for everyone, tomorrow is the Chamber of Commerce Luncheon, and they'll host Chief Billy Friend from the Wyandotte Nation, who will be giving an update. Today was the start of early voting. Times for the remainder of the week include Wednesday tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Thursday and Friday is 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Saturday is 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and then that will conclude early voting. And of course, Election Day is next Tuesday, where voting will be here in council chambers from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. And just for council to look forward to the future as far as what's coming up prior to the holidays, our agendas are starting to fill up rather quickly. On November 10th, we will both have the initial report from the Downtown Visioning Workshop. Confluence will be back in the town to tell us how that went, as well as the rezoning case for 85th and 135. And then on November 24th, PEC will be coming and presenting a draft concept of the intersection improvements to 77th and Broadway. That project is moving extremely quickly as well. So, pending any questions, that's all I have, sir.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Sean? George?
Well, I take it the trash is going to run tomorrow then?
Yes, sir. The trash is running the rest of the week. It's just they're running a day behind so far. So if trash was scheduled to be picked up today, it's probably still out in the street. They'll be picking it up first thing tomorrow.
Yeah, I started to just pull my trash can back. I noticed they didn't pick it up, but I'll
Yes,
just
sir.
leave it out then.
Yes, sir. They'll pick it up tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just the next meeting, can we provide an update on the monument sign where somebody clocked it, just kind of on what we're looking at for repairs?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
I got a question. What's the status on 61st Street and Broadway and West?
61st Street as far as improvements.
The intersection improvements, yeah.
We are coming close to the end. We have reached out to all the people that we need to secure right-of-way from. There are at least 2, if not 3 different properties that have indicated that they would like to receive fair compensation for their right-of-way. So our land negotiators in the process of dealing with those. It's been very surprising, though. There's quite a few people that have said that they would like to dedicate or donate their right-of-way as well in temporary easements, so that's very good. So once we have that complete, then utility relocates will start, and we're looking at that project starting somewhere in February, March time period.
Okay, that's
Yes,
what
sir.
I was looking at, trying to get to the public, so, okay. So
Yes,
we're
sir.
looking at first quarter or second quarter next year?
We're looking at first quarter of, or second quarter of next year for both projects, actually. The intersection at 77th will be moving that quickly. That's why they're going to be coming to council on November 24th to give you an update.
Okay.
Because there is no right-of-way concerns that we have. They're ready to go. So,
Thank you.
yes, sir.
All right. Anyone else? Okay. That will bring us to the consent agenda. Is there a motion? Jim?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
And Brandy?
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. That brings us to new business, item 5, which is discuss and consider an appointment to the library board. We currently have a open position for a vacancy, and Cheryl Talon is a contributor at the library and works with Lynn quite a bit and would like to be a part of that library board. So I'd recommend that we approve her. Tom?
I would move that we approve the appointment of Cheryl Talent to the library board.
George?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. That brings us to item 6, which is the CCUA wastewater treatment plant update. As you know, Brandy, Melvin, and myself currently sit on the CCUA board. Tom and George have been pioneers on the CCUA board for many years. And one of the things we've been discussing is the plant expansion there. And Brian Soprano, you want to go ahead and come on up?
No problem.
Sorry about that.
Spano, it's okay.
Sorry.
It happens a lot. I've heard a lot of different names.
It rolled off so easy.
Well, thank you for allowing us to present with you. And with me is Doug Getz and Jill Drake. We're all working on the project together. And Sean, thank you for setting this up for us. Those that serve on the board understand that we've been moving forward with this project, and we wanted to, when we got to a certain stage, we wanted the opportunity to sit in front of the councils here at Park City and also in Bel Air, and just to give you guys an update. And so what you're going to see in front of the screens in front of you or behind me is the presentation we gave during the interview. And what we're interested in showing you today is what problems exist at the treatment plant today and what our focus will be on the design. But I can tell you, since August of 2019 when we gave this presentation, there have been some updates, and we'll try to illustrate those today or tonight and give you an updated schedule and cost and so forth. So this presentation probably ran originally about 45 minutes to an hour, and we're going to definitely try to get through that a lot quicker. But I definitely, if you have questions, keep it informal, just kind of point at us, let us know if you have a question, and then ask it. Don't wait till the end, please. So I'll wave my hand when it's the next slide. Keep going. I'm not going to give you an introduction of Wilson & Company unless you really want us to. I don't know what slides have been removed. One more. All right. And you guys have a placemat in front of you, which is an illustration of what our expected design would look like back in August of 2019, and it hasn't changed too much from that. So that's a good thing. Want to illustrate some of the issues that you have at the facility or had and are experiencing. And we'll just kind of start with this graphic, and there's going to be 2 slides on this. If we start at the headworks, which is the front of the plant, there's some corrosion issues that have taken place inside the control building, and we want to, so far everything's working, but we want to hit that ahead of time before things start to fail. And so we're going to do some changes there to not only correct the deficiencies that are there now, but also mitigate those from happening in the future. When we look at the influent pump station, there has been some issues that you have 4 pumps located in that pump station which provide the hydraulic head for flow to go through your entire plant. And unfortunately, the way it was designed, only 3 of the 4 pumps can actually be ran without some issues. We're going to make some minor changes to that pump station that allow all 4 pumps to be utilized. At the SBR number 3, which is the most recent one in the large basin, if you guys are familiar with the facility, that large basin, it's working. Unfortunately, there were some design issues that took place that we're going to correct with this phase, and primarily that's with the decanter or the mechanism that takes the effluent off of the basin. We're going to reposition that so it performs better. There also was an addition to the plant that put the ultraviolet disinfection process on top of the basin at SBR 3. It's about 25 feet in the air, and probably half of the year it's feasible to climb up there and do some maintenance. The other half of the year is not. And in fact, it wasn't constructed or designed in a manner that creates a safe environment. And so we're actually going to remove the UV off of that structure and bring it down to grade level and put it in its own facility. So we'll be doing that. SBR 1 and 2, those are going to be, right now, those are going to be converted to a different process. We call it primary digestion. And the reason we're doing that is just capacity issues. With the growth initiatives with Park City and Bel Air, we want to add some capacity to this wastewater treatment plant. And so we're going to be looking at utilizing SBR 3 and also a potential 3 basins the similar size. In doing that, we need to add to the capacity of the primary digestion, and that's why we're going to use SBR 1 and 2. There we go. And so when we convert SBR 1 and 2 into primary digestion, we're going to then take the current primary digester and add it to your equalization, which just adds to the flow and the process of the wastewater treatment plant, doubling the capacity. So we're basically doubling the capacity of adding 50% more to your SBR, your biological treatment. We're doubling the capacity of your primary digestion. We're doubling the capacity of your equalization. And then we're also, your reuse tank that you have out there, that we're utilizing wastewater effluent off of your wastewater treatment plant to irrigate and so forth. Right now it was constructed with no cover on it. Well, there's still biological matter in the water, and as soon as sunlight hits that biological matter, it creates algae. And so we want to be able to utilize the full capacity of that tank. So we're going to put a cover on top of that. And then your secondary digesters right now, they accept sludge from your wastewater process as well as your water treatment plant lime sludge. And we're just going to create those into lime thickening basins. Trying to speed through this a little bit. This is your headworks facility that has some corrosion. We've done the assessment of the MCC, and so what we're going to do is replace some of the necessary components with the electrical and your HVAC systems, and then we're going, and as well as some of your exterior components. And then actually we're going to have a pressurized room in that facility that doesn't allow the hydrogen sulfide components to get into that room for the corrosion. With your influent pump station, you really can't see it in that picture to the right, but on the right-hand side, there's a pipe that's coming in and hitting that pump. It's basically discharging the flow right on top of the pump, which doesn't allow you to use that pump effectively. And so we're going to put a deflector plate in front of that pipe that will deter that influent flow. We're also going to look at modifying some of the guide rails. We're still looking into that to see if we can do that and still keep the system running. Again, just corrosion issues through the hydrogen sulfide. There's your SBR 1 and 2. We're going to create those into primary digesters. This is your post-EQ basin. The one on the right is your current EQ basin. The one on the left is your current primary digester that's going to look like the one on the right when we're done with it. It won't be empty part of the time. So that is your secondary digesters, and all we're going to do is remove some of the digestion equipment from inside the basins to convert those to lime thickening basins. We're going to remove some of the pipe that goes into it that you don't need anymore. In addition, we've talked to Randall about having an alternative for the contractor to remove the lime sludge that's accumulated down at the bottom of the basin. That's a tedious process, and since we have a contractor coming in, we might as well take a look at it. The one on the picture on the left is showing your reuse tank. As you can see, it's not covered. We're going to throw a geodesic aluminum dome on the top of that. I'm not going to say it's going to look exactly like what you see in the right picture, but that's a geodesic dome that we're envisioning and we're designing around. The sequencing batch reactors, we won't go into the whole technology of sequencing batch reactors, but basically it is a batch process. There is when everything's working in normal, we want about a 6-hour time frame between the time we introduce water to it from the time we take water out of it. And so we're going to be looking at continuing that technology. It's a good technology to use for wastewater treatment, and since half of your plant is already using that technology, we're going to continue that versus introducing 2 different technologies to your plant or completely wasting what you already have in place. There's some advantages and disadvantages. You guys have the presentation, so I won't go over that since we've already selected that process. With your ultraviolet disinfection process, the picture on the right is what you see you have now. As you can see, as you're opening those control panels, you're really trying to balance on concrete walls. You don't want to step on those aluminum covers. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, or steel covers, but it's an unsafe environment. Plus, you're 25 feet in the air and exposed to the elements of the weather. And so if you can see that grassy area in the left picture beyond those two basins, we're going to have about I think it's a 30 by, you're going to have a building there that will house a new UV system that's completely indoors so that they can be maintained year-round without having to deal with weather influential factors or an unsafe manner at an elevated structure. And we are going to look at, we are going to look at doing a closed system. So this is something, a new technology. We actually took Randall out to Hays, Kansas to look at the very exact technology we're looking into. It's a very feasible one. You don't have to take it out of service to maintain it. So it's going to help the staff in the future. We'll move on to the next one. So, Doug, you want to talk about a project schedule?
Yeah, absolutely. So through all that picking of equipment, talking about technology, getting to a point of 30% design, that was kind of our goal, to get to a point like that where we made a lot of the bigger decisions. Now we're ready to talk schedule with that from a standpoint of, hey, we've got a timeline that we put together back then, and we're pretty much, that's the schedule you can say we're still on. We haven't really deviated from that. We've got a couple of things with KDHE. They require an anti-degradation study. We've done an anti-degradation study, turned it in, got approval. Got a call a couple weeks ago that they want to revisit it again, so I guess we might do it again. But we're going to still, I don't think it changes the outcome of anything you see of the technology we're attempting to do. The loadings in the stream are going to remain somewhat similar. So we're thinking we can continue along the schedule that you see up there. This process is a design bid build. There'll be some slides coming up later where we talked about the differences between design build and design bid build. We chose that the bidding it out to contractors approach was going to be the best fit for this particular project. So that's where we're headed. So, and another thing we want to do is leverage Randall's expertise for review as we go along the way, in case he decides to retire somewhere along the way, which we're hoping doesn't happen. That we can still meet that in conjunction with this schedule. So we're thinking we're still on track for this at this rate. So if that helps you from a standpoint of budgeting and thinking to the future, we'll talk costs here in a little bit too.
Ideally, if the schedule is sliding, our critical component is that February where you see the final design submitted to KDHE approval. We have a little bit of fluff in there for having a construction complete by next June or June of 2022. But we definitely want to have that task item, if that slides, no later than say mid-March. So we make sure we have Randall review them. He knows the most about that plant than anybody, so we want to make sure he has an opportunity to review the final plans and provide final comment before he's released.
I like how you said that, released. Yes. So yeah, there's some things that might slide, but still the goal is to be at the construction completion at June 2022. That's when the permit cycles through. So when KHE is renewing the permit for the facility, we're right in line with the expectations from their standpoint. So that's kind of the goal that was built backwards. Moving along, costs. So I talked about we went to a process of a design bid build. So now we're working with technologies that we've selected. The cost that you see in there is kind of a snapshot of the preliminary report that was done by a different firm originally to try to put some sort of budgetary cost together that you guys could start to work from communities. It had a wide range. It had a total cost of $9.5 million there, and you see that the minus 20% or plus 30% gives you a range from $7 million to $12 million. It's hard to make an educated decision based on that wider range. So one of the things we did at the interview was we revisited the costs. So the next slide, we've changed the scope a little bit from this. I won't lie, as we meet and we go through 30% talkings, we flush out other things that are, oh, we need to fix this as a byproduct of fixing X, Y comes along. But when we revisited it, you can see up there we looked at all the construction costs. We busted them into kind of what Brian talked earlier, whether it was SBR work, whether it was replacing the digesters. We tried to itemize it in the same categories to try to give it kind of a picture. And at the end of it, we end up there at the bottom of $9.5 million, basically. So we basically said, based on that preliminary engineering report you had before, 9.5 was the average. You should be comfortable about there. I wouldn't worry about the fluctuations of plus and minus 20 and 30%. So that was kind of where we left that. We know that that's going to fluctuate a little more. For example, at the UV building, we've had some discussions on the effluent reuse side of adding some filters in that building. That's a wise decision. So we're thinking that that will be something we will incorporate into the design And that will be something that's not something originally thought about here, but it's not something that's going to break the bank either, and it's a good long-term solution.
And just to add up to that, there's some other things that we've added. I mean, being able to meet with Sean and Bel Air and knowing the capacity concerns that could be coming forward, we're looking at adding the Basin 4 on too, which was not in the preliminary scope. So for those that are on the board, we presented it to 30%. They were probably looking at about that $10.5 million right now. Today we were having meetings all day long regarding the controls and the integration of your SCADA and so forth. And so we learned some new things even today about what needs to be done. And so when we submit that 60%, we'll resubmit another cost estimate to the board of where things are at today. And by then we'll have some manufacturing costs coming in.
Yeah, and in conjunction with the 30% design, we've worked with, as touring manufacturing or other facilities that have equipment, we've selected our equipment now. We've reached a point of where we know where we're working or what we're working with and who we want. And so we're now fine-tuning those costs so that by 60% we know what it's going to cost for the UV equipment. We know what it's going to cost for the pieces to help put the puzzle together. So that'll help us fine-tune them as we go. But this was kind of the cost estimate we started with during the interview stage. So any questions on that? We didn't want to dive into every line item, but
again, we rushed through that. You guys have other things to talk about, but we wanted a chance to just present to you guys and make sure that you guys are aware of what's going on.
Does anybody have any questions? So I know this is a lot to take in, especially
Sure.
when you don't sit on the board, and I know George and Tom have for many years. Randall loves to give tours of the facility, and if you have not taken the opportunity to get with Randall and go over there and look at it, I highly suggest that you take some time out of a day and go spend some time with Randall, look at it. I know everybody in their households expect when you flip the switch on the faucet that you get water, and when you flush the toilet that it works. But there is a lot of work that goes in behind the background to be able to make those things happen. And a lot of people take that for granted. So I'd highly suggest that council, if you have not been out and toured it, that you get out there and get a tour with Randall. Tom?
I do have a comment. I'm glad to hear you're addressing with the pressurized building the corrosion and activities, because I know the last process we went through, there was some cable pulled up through some conduit that was about as big around as my thumb, and it turned black within like 3 or 4 weeks.
We've seen it. Yeah. So yeah.
So all that I hope is being addressed. So.
We are.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, if you guys have any other questions down the road or want us to come back, let us know. Go through Sean. He can go through Randall. We'll get those answers to you. But thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Stay safe.
That brings us to item 7, which is discuss and consider a resolution authorizing the sale of unimproved properties subject to IRB lease between the city and Air Capital Investments. Doug?
Mayor and Council, when I wrote the summary up, I hadn't gotten information back from Sarah, so let me give you some more specifics so this makes a little more sense to you. This involves the Air Capital Investment LLC and Lou Rebelli financing the acquisition of the old Hayes building back in 2017, along with lots of unimproved land around that site. And as you may remember, he has already used a portion of that $14,600,000 to construct, I think, a 500,000 square foot warehouse facility. And this request tonight is to release from, because we own all the property as part of the IRB when the initial resolution for $14,600,000 was adopted, to release from our ownership back to Air Capital 7 acres, and then the intent is that would then be the remaining portion of the $14,600,000, which has not all been expended to date, would be used to construct approximately $150,000 facility. 150,000 square foot. I may have said dollars, I meant square foot. And this is permitted by the lease agreement between the city and the tenant. And you have in front of you the resolution that accomplishes that, together with a bill of sale and maybe another document that the mayor and clerk need to sign. So I would recommend that you approve the resolution in front of you to release this 7 acres, which would then allow this to be developed under that overarching IRB amount that you had approved 3 years ago.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Doug? Is there a recommendation from the council? Jim?
I really don't have any questions, so I would go ahead and move for Resolution 1058-2020 of the governing body of City of Park City, Kansas, authorizing the sale and conveyance of certain property to Air Capital Investments, LLC.
And Ben?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. Marla, would you call the roll?
John Lanier, George Glover,
Aye.
Ben Salcetta,
Aye.
Melvin Kerr,
Aye.
Tom Jones,
Aye.
George Capps,
Aye.
Brandy Bailey,
Aye.
Jim Schrader.
Aye. And that resolution passes 7-0. That brings us to item 8, which is discuss and consider a quote for office furniture and panel system from Hahn Company for Office Plus.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Appreciate your consideration this evening. What you have in front of you is a schematic that shows what is suggested to fit that area of the building that is in the planning and building inspection section of the building. It was intended for future growth, and as you're aware, you have approved for us to hire a part-time building inspector because of all of the things that are currently going on and the anticipated growth ahead. The quote that you have fits specifically into that space. It will actually house 2 individuals to sit in that location. It will be intended to fit the functionality of what we currently have going on and moving forward. It also will fit the design elements of the building. It will look like the panels and things that you see in the front office in the police department, so it fits the building. It is an unbudgeted cost. It is $9,362.10 is what the quote is for, and I put into the staff report that we were asking that it be costed into the general fund, but to the building inspector. We would like to have that actually split between the planning department and building inspector because it will round out the needs for that department. Can answer any questions that you have.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Ben?
Go ahead and make a motion to approve the purchase of office furniture for the planning department from Hahn Company, care of Office Plus of Kansas, in the amount of $9,362.10 to be paid out of, and help me get this right, are we splitting this now between the general fund building inspection department and
planning?
Planning.
Yes, thank you.
George?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. Thank you,
Thank you very much.
That brings us to item 9, which is discuss and consider adopting an ordinance amending section 14-205 of the municipal code relating to on-street parking restrictions in the city. Doug?
Mayor, I can answer questions about the ordinance, but I'll let Sean give you some of the background about why it's here.
Okay.
As everyone recalls, about 4 months ago, back in June, we went ahead and lifted the previously posted one-side only parking on various different streets throughout the community. There's a total of 37 streets that are 22 feet wide. At the time, we had checked with what we thought to be the largest vehicle on the road from the fire department, but then it created some problems with our trash providers. Apparently, by the time they have their mirrors extended out, the width of that vehicle extends all the way out to 112 inches, which is about a foot wider than a fire engine. So at the time, they contacted us and said that they wanted to express a concern for the safety of their operators, didn't want to get in a predicament to where they would be going down a street and couldn't get through to provide trash. Waste Connections has been very helpful in helping us get some time to mitigate this situation. They have continued to agree to all the way throughout the first of the year, give us that time to come to a better resolution. So we met with council members from that district, that ward, I should say, this past week and came up with a recommendation not to go back to the way it had been previously, but just to change it for that one day of the week. Luckily for that portion of the community, their trash picked up is on Tuesday. So right now, if they make an attempt and they have a problem getting through, they're going to leave it. But the nice thing is they're here Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so they will come back on Wednesday and try to make that attempt. And if they can't do it on Wednesday, they'll come back on Thursday. But what we're hoping to do is if we post signs on those same streets that had been previously one-sided only, if we say that on Tuesdays between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., most of the citizens hopefully wouldn't be affected because they're either going to work prior to that time or coming home after that time. So we kind of, with the guidance from the two council members, kind of the thought that would be the best way to address the issue going forward. I know previously we had discussed that, well, why is it just this particular section of the community? There's other sections that do have 22-foot wide streets, but most of those sections have homes that are newer, and because of that, more than likely they have driveways that are 2 car widths wide, and so there's not near as many cars. Doesn't say that it couldn't happen in those sections, but that's not what they've encountered. This issue has only come up twice in the last month that we've been working with Waste Connections to get it resolved. So right now, everything seems to be good, but we're thinking this is the best way to approach that going forward.
Doug, that kind of explained the changes, unless you had anything else to add.
Well, the operative change is actually subsection B, and it's just adding in those 10 described sides of streets that were taken out 4 or 5 months ago when we deleted the no parking on one side.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, I do. If there's a holiday, trash slides a day. So Tuesday there will be no parking, but they'll pick it up on Wednesday. So does that create any kind of a conflict or?
Well, there's a limit to what we can do. I mean, this is a penal statute or penal ordinance, and so it has to be specific. Okay. So I can't say you can't park on trash day and assume that that's vague. So we'll just have to deal with those situations. It'll be few and far between.
There will be an issue, but
the trash company has been working with us at this point, and I don't think we'll have a problem with the hiccup in there.
Okay.
George?
You know, after we talked about this, I drove those streets in the Horseshoe, and there's not a widespread problem, but there's some isolated deals in there. And I could see where there'd be days where they won't have no problems at all, but like I say, it's not like all the streets are completely congested, but there are some issues there. But I think the holidays, that's, you know, it's like the attorney said, you know, there's so much we can do. And I think this is the least intrusive on our citizens.
And if I may also at the same time, we plan on doing several public service announcements via the city's website, Facebook page, just to remind folks that there are concerns, or could be concerns, with both emergency vehicles as well as our trash collection service. To be mindful of your neighbors, be respectful of your neighbors, park close to the curb as possible, so that way it eliminates the vast majority of the problems that we could have.
Ben?
Yeah. To this, I mean, it's just a good reminder consistently that when we're parking along those streets, especially the ones that are narrower, but it shouldn't matter if they're narrow or not, to make sure that we're parking as close to the curb in general, because that will alleviate a lot of the problems we have going on. It just so happens that it's more consistently happening in areas where the streets are narrower and people are parking 8-10 inches away from the street curb, which is still legal, but is causing headaches. I appreciate Waste Connections working with us on this and the effort made by staff to try to help come to a amicable solution. I think this is a great solution there, and I think that having one day set aside rather than all the days, or running to the issue of having no trash service because we're not addressing the issue, neither of those are healthy or workable. So I appreciate staff's work on this, and with that, and also Councilman Capps is he was the brains behind this one. So I would make a motion that we, get there real quick, I apologize. Approve ordinance 1110-2020, an ordinance amending section 14-205 of the municipal code of the city of Park City, Kansas, designating streets and sections of streets where vehicular parking is prohibited, and repealing the original of said section 14-205.
I'll second that.
Okay. Okay, we got a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. Marlo, would you call the roll?
John Lanier, George Glover,
Aye.
Ben Saucetta,
Aye.
Melvin Kerr,
Aye.
Tom Jones,
Aye.
George Capps,
Aye.
Brandy Bailey, Jim Schrader.
Aye. And that ordinance passes 7-0. That was the last item on the agenda this evening, so we'll move on to governing body reports. I just want to say that over the last few weeks, we were able to make the announcement about Amazon coming to town. I know there had been some scuttle about that out there, and kind of broke maybe a little bit early in some places, but it's an exciting time for Park City to have such a household name and a large employer like that to be right here in the city. I know we're talking probably 1,000+ jobs, 800 to 1,000 once they get rolling, and more than that when their seasonal stuff gets here. A lot of times we talk about adding new businesses or bringing other things to town and other city services, and when you have a draw like this that's going to bring an influx of people in, this will add to that restaurant base and other citizen amenities out there for other companies coming to town. So it's good to have a big anchor like this in town. I'm excited for it. Can't wait to see what it does for Park City. Jim?
Well said. I don't have anything to add.
George?
Only thing I got is just stay safe and pray for our country.
Brandy?
With not knowing what plans are for Halloween for most people, Impulse Fitness, they're doing a trunk or treat on Saturday from 6 to 9. Several members are setting up trunks to hand out candy, so kids come out and at least they can get some sort of Halloween in. And if businesses would like to get involved with that, reach out over to Impulse. That way they can get them the details on what to do.
Okay. Tom?
I don't have anything tonight.
George?
Yeah, I think Amazon coming to town will greatly enhance our economic outlook as far as Park City. So been getting a lot of encouraging just from residents about hearing that and what it's going to do to Park City. So I do believe that is an anchor that we need at this time. Make sure everybody gets out and votes. And also, I want to thank everybody that came out to our Fall Fest. We probably had about 20 kids come out at the costume contest in lieu of everything else that's going on, so we appreciated that, and that's all I have.
Just want to touch base on George's comment real quick about voting. And Sean went through the dates and times. I would say today there was a steady flow of traffic. If that's any indication of what the rest of the week looks like, and specifically on November 3rd, I would encourage everybody to get out early and take advantage of this early voting that we have here in town. They worked pretty quick. The line built up fast, but they were able to get people in and out. Parking lot was constantly turning over today. So I would highly suggest to try to get out there and get through the line. Melvin?
I have nothing.
Ben?
Sure, just to add to the voting part, and then a couple things there. Obviously, early voting has been underway now for a little over a week and a half, but now you can vote at multiple places. And to those listening, obviously, chances are Park City is your closest location, but you can vote at any open early voting center between now and Monday. Monday, I believe, is only at the historic courthouse, and it's only open till noon. So please get out and vote, support candidates there. And if you don't make it out early, make it out on November 3rd. We're expecting record turnout here in Sedgwick County and across the nation, which is great. But with that, I do also want to encourage all of our residents here and ourselves. We all have candidates that we like, that we don't like, people that we trust, people that we don't trust, and the list could go on and on when it comes about politics. But I want to remind everybody, come November 4th, we're still Americans, and we still live in the greatest country in the world. and we still have a love for our country. And so treat your neighbors who might differ with you on policy or on politics with respect, with dignity, and let's rise above the partisanship. Let's rise above all the hatred, the stuff that's going on right now in our country, whether it's here locally where we have people acting out without integrity or whether it's on a national level. Be respectful, be courteous, and remember November 4th, we're still living in the greatest country. Second off, I do want to say thank you to staff who has put in countless hours working this deal with Amazon. And thank you for all that you've done in that there, in preparation for that. What a great thing to add to our community. And so staff, thank you all very much for the work that you put on there and with several other issues that we see in our community.
Okay.
And with that, I make a motion we adjourn.
Second. All right. Jim, second. Got a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Good night.